This is the Rhombus by
Arthur Egan.
and Mark Fluke.
The definition of a rhombus is a parallelogram in which at least two consecutive sides are congruent. That's a rhombus right there.
All the properties of a parallelogram apply by definition.
All the properties of a kite apply.
All sides are congruent. Rhombus is an equilateral shape.
The diagonals bisect the angles.
Diagonals are perpendicular bisectors of each other.
Diagonals divide the rhombus into four congruent triangles.
Example 1's given says that AB is congruent to BC, which is congruent to CD, which is congruent to AD, and that's by the given, so that's our reason. Now, then we have to mark the graph, so just mark it all down, and reason number 2, and we move on to number 2. And since that AB, BC, CD, and AD are all congruent, that means it's a rhombus. For number 2, we're going to do AC is congruent to AC through the reflexive property. So that makes that congruent to each other. And then moving on to step 3, we're going to do that BD is congruent to BD, also through the reflexive. And then going on to step 4, now that we have a triangle BAD is congruent to triangle BCD through side, 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 because you have three congruent angles on a triangle, which makes it side, side, side. And moving on to step 5, we can do the conclusion, which is AC is the bisector of BD, and that is through C, P, C, T, C, or congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And that's how you do example 1.
Example 2 says that WY and XZ are perpendicular bisectors to each other. And that's given to us by the given. For the next step, angle V is a right angle, meaning on all sides, right there. And that is because definition of perpendicular bisector. Next step is WY is congruent to WY by the reflexive property. And same with XZ is congruent to XZ by the reflexive property. And you can tell that makes 4 congruent triangles. Triangle XVW, triangle XVY, triangle WVZ, and triangle ZVY. And they're all congruent by side angle side. And we had to prove that WX is congruent to XY is congruent to YZ is congruent to ZW. and those are all congruent by CPCTC.
And that is a rhombus.
The end.